The other day I was coming out of Roach Brothers, and there was this woman who had a shopping cart that was full as could be. She probably had 10, 12 bags loaded up. And I thought, my God, she must have a lot of company. I only had one little bag. I felt quite inadequate. But then I recalled the days when I was growing up, and my mother would come back from the store, and the whole station wagon would be full of food. It took a lot to take care of 9 kids. The gospel today is Matthew's version of the feeding, not of the 9, but of the thousands. It's one of the few stories that's told in all 4 Gospels, the feeding of the multitude. This reflects how central this story was to the early church. It's both a miracle story that took place thousands of years ago, but it's also central to what we do at the Eucharistic table. We take bread, break it, and share it. I have no problem seeing this as a miracle in the literal sense, that Jesus somehow took a small amount of bread and fish and fed the multitude. But I read once that the feeding of the multitudes might have had a very simple explanation. Someone suggested that the miracle may have started with the disciples simply sharing what they had with others, and then folks who had brought food with them began to share with their neighbors. And eventually, there were 12 wicker baskets left over. The miracle would have been people moving from their selfishness to their selflessness, to their generosity, to their care of the neighbor. The second reading from Paul is sometimes read at funerals. It's a reminder that nothing can separate us from the love of God that comes to us in Christ Jesus. And Paul lists all sorts of things, and he includes not even life or death, present things or future things. The love of God for you and for me is so powerful and so unconditional that it surpasses all else. And the challenge that's given to you and me is to fall in love with God in response to his love and to give it to others. Today is the feast of St. Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits. And we don't celebrate it because the Sunday takes precedence. But in the last century, there was a Jesuit by the name of Pedro Arrupe, who was the head of the Jesuits for many years. And he wrote something that might get us to think about how we are invited to respond to God's love and to, in a sense, fall in love. He wrote, "Nothing is more practical than finding God, than falling in love in a quite absolute, final way. What you are in love with, what seizes your imagination, will affect everything. It will decide what will get you out of bed in the morning, what you do with your evenings, how you spend your weekends, what you read, whom you know, what breaks your heart, and what amazes you with joy and gratitude. Fall in love, stay in love, and it will decide everything." May we all fall more deeply in love with our God.